Hey, welcome everyone. Sorry, my little technical difficulty getting started here. Welcome to our very first live stream Columbus Garden Railroad Society channel YouTube live stream video. Appreciate you being here. Boy, it's a beautiful day outside, and it's a true shame that we're not down at Franklin Park Conservatory today enjoying this nice day looking at the Paul Busse Garden Railroad. But it was about a week ago, Ron Mayer and I had a conversation, and we're just not all comfortable gathering right now with Franklin County being in the COVID stages that we're in. So Ron and I decided, hey, let's do a YouTube live channel video during our normal meeting time. So here we are. We've been practicing all week and figuring out this software. And it's we got a really nice show for you today. So I hope you'll stick around. We have our guests waiting in our virtual green room here today, and I'm sure they're munching on the virtual cookies and tea that I set out aside for everyone. Yep. And so first, though, we're going to have a few news discussion items here. A few things I want to talk with you all, and we have a few news things we need to discuss first. Our future meetings. The December holiday party has been canceled. With everything going on, it's just gonna be too tough to meet indoors. Cecil has done a great job putting those meetings or that holiday party on the last couple of years, but we just can't spread out that much. So we're canceling the December holiday party. The January make and take meeting, we all love making our buildings or bridges, whatever we're making. We're going to postpone that to later in the summer when we can all meet outside and build our projects. Doug Clark and Marshall Winkle are planning something right now. I believe it's a bridge, maybe. I haven't seen the actual project yet, but you guys all know Marshall's work and what a great job he does. So we look forward to making our project later in the year. Lastly, the February banquet, boy, it's just not going to happen right now. We're going to also postpone that and reschedule it for later in the summer when we can all enjoy a nice outdoor meal. We enjoy those door prizes. We enjoy the company and the talks that we get to have at that. So we're just going to push that out later in the year, to be decided where and when. If we could just leave it at that for now. The next item to bring up, if you have not checked out the Columbus Garden Railroad website in a while, you might notice that it's been updated. And Kent has been working really hard on updating our website. I will get it up on screen here in a second if I could find my mouse. Hey, there we go. It's up on screen now. So Ken has updated our website. We have moved things around, updated it, and it's just fresh. And we had to move it to a new domain or a new hosting site. I guess the last one wasn't working out very well anymore. And Kent really worked really hard. So go check it out. Just remember, it's a work in progress. We're always going to be updating it. It's always going to get better. Continuous progress, right? Brings me to the last topic here. It's time for dues. Let's remember to pay our 2021 dues. It's real easy. You just got to click on the form here and it will come up. Just fill in your name, address, check for $24, and you'll get all of the great benefits of being in the Columbus Garden Railway Society. It's $24 per family, the whole household family. It's not per person. So $24, great deal. Get on in with the club. So next here, I'm going to bring in our first guest. Ron Mayer is one of our hosts here today. He is, we were going to be joined by Deb Sweet as well, but there must be a technical difficulty that she has not joined us yet. So Ron, I'm going to hand over the microphone to you. I'm going to bring you into the stream here. Hey, Ron, welcome to the show. How are you?
I am wonderful. Good afternoon to everyone. It gives me enormous pleasure in introducing our very special guest today. I know you thought it was me. No, no, no. The very special guest is Laura Busse Dolan. You should recognize the middle name, maybe not the last, but she is second generation of applied imagination. I had the great opportunity of working with her this year at Franklin Park, and I believe last year you were up for the library, maybe at one day. But I've known her father, I think it goes back 25 years. So I've enjoyed being around Applied Imagination. They are a wonderful company, and the joy that they bring. If you want to see what joy looks like, come on down to Franklin Park and people watch. Anyway, I will now turn the show over to Laura to explain pretty much how the relationship began with Franklin Park, and then she'll take us up to June 19th, and I'll take it from there. So I'll back out, and Laura, it's yours.
Hi, everyone. My name, as Ron already wonderfully introduced me, is Laura Busse Dolan. I am President CEO of Applied Imagination, second generation. So this is a family-run business. My father founded the company in 1991, and I took over the reins in 2017. Unfortunately, that wasn't necessarily a choice that Paul wanted to make, but Parkinson's came into play in his life about 12 years ago. And as that disease has progressed, he was unable to take over the company. So he sat me down one day and he said, I think you're about the only one that can fill my shoes and carry this company into the future. And I sure don't want to see it go away. So if you'd kindly consider doing so. And so I kind of switched gears from the career that I was in advertising. And here I am now running Applied Imagination. And I am just so thrilled to be here. I love this company with my whole heart. I have grown up alongside of it. I can remember going to the Greater Cincinnati Garden Railway Society train club meetings when I was a little girl. And so, you know, between that and chasing rail trains that would come into town, and, you know, I have more or less my entire life lived and breathed trains. So I just feel honored to be taking over this company. For those that you don't really know much about Applied Imagination, we do Garden Railway displays all over the country. What started as kind of a small business has now grown into quite a big business, where we have displays in New York, Chicago, down at the Biltmore in Asheville. Of course, our beloved display at Franklin Park Conservatory in Columbus, Ohio, and kind of all over the Eastern and Midwest areas of the United States. So, and I'm hoping to take that even further, that maybe we get overseas or out west one of these days. But for right now, the displays that we have certainly keep us busy. So the thing that kind of makes our Garden Railway displays unique are the architectural models that we use to display in and amongst the trains. So our architectural models are all decorated in natural dried plant material. This is a concept that Paul developed when he was kind of starting, you know, to do more and more of these garden railways, which actually started, I think, back in the 80s, early 80s is when he kind of started doing residential displays. And then that kind of led into him being asked to do some public displays. And at some point he was asked to do a display at Crone Conservatory in Cincinnati, Ohio. And he didn't necessarily want to use the typical kind of buildings that are used in garden railway displays. So the idea was born to make architectural models out of dried plant material. So that idea led into him forming Applied Imagination in '91, and he took the love that he had for model trains and architecture and landscape architecture, which was what he started as in the late 70s, and turned that all into one business under the roof of Applied Imagination. So we now do these everywhere, and as Paul would say, his favorite job is always the next one. So I think us as a company, we're always kind of looking for ways to top ourselves and push this work even further than we've ever been before. And I think Franklin Park is a wonderful example of us really pushing the boundaries of what we do. And I'm just so thrilled to be sharing this one with you guys. It's certainly one that I've had a lot of hands-on experience with from day one. But the neat thing about Franklin Park, this is not a new relationship. Paul actually did a display with Franklin Park even before he was known as Applied Imagination, back during an event called Ameriflora. So Paul, one of kind of his early iterations of what we do now happened at Franklin Park Conservatory. So really in the beginnings and the birth of what we know this company to be now, we had one of these displays at Ameriflora. And then again, we came back and we've done kind of different iterations with Franklin Park, from holiday carousels to a big, beautiful display within their conservatory that was all around models that celebrated wonders of the world. And now this year, starting in June, we did our biggest display ever with Franklin Park Conservatory. The outdoor Grand Mall display is a 10,000 square foot display with 9 different tracks and about 1,200 feet of track. So it took us probably a little bit over a year to actually build, plan and build. And then when, oh, sorry, my mom was calling. It took us about a year to plan and build, and then a little bit over a week to install. So a hugely ambitious project for Applied Imagination, but I know everyone on my amazing team is so proud of this one. And it's a great one for us because it's not too far from home. A lot of us, myself included, live in Cincinnati. So it's one that we can easily send our families to and kind of share the work that we do, in a really impressive form, which I think Franklin Park is certainly one of my favorites that we do. So I know Ron, he has been such a great partner for us in kind of volunteering and helping us set this Garden Railroad up. And so I've known Ron for a long time. He's been a longtime friend of my father's. I'm just thrilled to have him in my life and thrilled that he has been so helpful for Franklin Park. And as all of you in this club know, it is no joke running a garden railway, especially to the limits that we push these trains. So it takes a lot of maintenance and a lot of know-how. And I'm just so thankful that Ron has been by our side for that. I usually conduct a training for the client that we are installing for. And this year I was so lucky to have Ron actually alongside of me to help do that training. So, I'm just so grateful for him and what he has brought to this display and the energy and excitement that he has brought to the Franklin Park team, as well as to my team and to everybody in Columbus. So I know he's going to do a beautiful job kind of describing, how this all went and where we are today.
Laura, thank you. Tough act to follow. I think I would like to say that when I took the pictures and the videos at Franklin Park, I had no idea that today would come and I'd have to put it together in something that made a whole lot of sense. Before we start the slides and the videos, I'd like to go over just some of the fun facts about this exhibit. 10,000 square feet. Imagine 100 by 100, a square. That's what 10,000 feet is. That's what we had to fill. When people walk in, I usually say hello to them and I explain there are 9 separate trains running. And they just looked like 9. I thought it was 1. So they know they're in for something very special. The parts were pre-assembled down in Alexandria, Kentucky, the home of Applied Imagination. And I one day was running some calculations on how many hours it took to put the display together. My rough estimate for Applied Imagination to create the display before Franklin Park planted everything, I figured roughly 1,000 hours. And then planting all the shrubs, and you have a beautiful picture here now of just a small fraction. I'll give you more statistics later. But Franklin Park spent another 1,000 hours planting shrubs, bushes, flowers. So, Jed, if we go to slide 1.
Yeah. Ron, this one technical difficulty here. We're having the echoing, and this is something we noticed in our practice sessions. Laura, did you notice that going on? Did you hear an echo with Ron, or is like digital static going on?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Ron can reboot here real quick. We practiced this, and it's like 5 seconds, and he's right back on the program. So it seems to happen like clockwork. About 35 minutes in, it just something is going on with his audio. So we practice this. We know what's going on.
Okay.
But he'll be back here in a second.
A little bit more. I can share a little bit more about. I mean, Ron is correct. This took every bit of Monday through Sunday for us to install. So just for the installation alone, I would say we're probably somewhere close to 1,000 hours. But the amount of hours on top of that for building this, I would have to go back and do a major calculation, but the good part of a year, I mean, that one big upper track alone is over 400 feet long. That is a massive undertaking to build a track that long. And then also make it behave through all of the different weather changes, which, we're oftentimes having to hop back up there for one thing or another that's relaxed into the ground. So, it's definitely a labor of love that takes hundreds upon thousands of hours to construct. I say to my dad, I'm the reason probably nobody has copied us before is we do things that take a tremendous amount of time and love and effort to pull off, but it's worth it.
It sure is. The results are fantastic. And just had a comment from Andrew, Mr. Pictovid. He has a YouTube channel that filmed a lot of garden railroads, and he's a lot of space to fill. And he's also got a quick question here. What would you say was the hardest part of designing this? I think that's what he's trying to ask here. Or maybe it's the construction of it. Is there something that stood out that was a little more difficult to construct or build?
Well, certainly the track that I just mentioned, that's, so large, that one big upper track, which it's impressive. It runs through the 4 different quadrants / themes of this installation, but you can only imagine constructing a 400+ foot loop and then getting that on site and raising it with a team of people exactly to the place where it's intended to be, which was very important because we had marked paths and bridges that had to go exactly, where they were planned to be. And of course, you get into, the plans were a few inches off here and there and have to, make adjustments on site. But I would say for the most part, we did a pretty good job planning. But raising that and getting it perfectly in place was certainly one of the bigger challenges. Another thing that we did that's not necessarily garden railway related, but a part of this display was the enchanted tree. And for any of you who have visited this display, you'll know what I'm talking about. But we basically recreated the base of like a big redwood that we call the enchanted tree that is humongous. It's probably about 10 to 12 feet wide and about 12 feet tall. And visitors can go inside of this tree and look up, and there's this beautiful fiber optic moss kind of scaped ceiling. But when I came up with that idea, I did not think about how hard it would be to build a tree. So we had to collect bark from the forest, and luckily our workshop is in the forest in Alexandria, Kentucky. But we had to collect bark from many, many different fallen trees, and then carefully piece that back together to look like one tree. My amazing, capable team made this vision come to life. Then you put it all together in your workshop, and then you've got to figure out how to get it to Columbus. So again, we had to kind of build it in a way that we could take it apart in 4 pieces and then have a forklift.
Right. Yeah, we don't want to spoil Ron's presentation, because he definitely has some goodies in there on how you got it to Columbus, which is going to blow everyone's mind.
There you go. Yeah.
Maybe we should move on into Ron's program at this point. Ron, are you ready to go ahead here?
I'm ready to give it a try.
You sound better, Ron.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There's always going to be some glitches.
Yes.
If we
Laura, I'm going to put you back into the green room here for a few minutes, and we'll let Ron talk. So we'll go enjoy some of those cookies and refreshments back in the room.
Okay.
Jed, okay, Ron, the show is yours.
While Jed's queuing it up, the first day began. I showed up on June 15th, and we're basically 2 months behind the timeline because of COVID. Needless to say, instead of the cool spring days to put this together, the week, every day was approximately 90 degrees, and there was no shade. We had 10 employees from Applied Imagination, and they brought lots of items to build a railroad. I've never seen so many items pre-positioned before they even got there. Pallets of stone, piles of dirt, pallets of cedar, and many more supplies. What you're looking at are some of the sections of track that were pre-assembled in Cincinnati. They came up here in, I have no idea how many sections, but the first thing they had to do, next page. Next, please. You can see the pegs along the track. They're on raised horses right now. And the blue on the left is wire that would run through the top of the pegs so that if a train would derail on the upper loops, it wouldn't fall to the ground. And I'm very happy that they installed those. And you will see a little bit later why I'm so happy that Applied Imagination did that. Next. Bridges. I've never seen so many bridges in my whole life. I counted Friday night when I was volunteering that there were approximately 12 bridges on the railroad, all positioned in places where people can walk underneath. And what's really cool is when some of the engines that make sound go overhead, it is really just joyous to be standing underneath. Next. If you can see here that the wires are in place from peg to peg to peg, and you can see at the end where things are joined together. What's important also in the slide, if you look at the upper half, you can see tea roses and a green bush, but behind it is basically dirt. And what most of the public does not seem to fully comprehend, even when I explain it, is that in the 10,000 square feet, the only living items were the tea roses at the entrance and the 2 bushes. All other flowers, bushes, and shrubs had to be planted, and there'll be more on that in a few minutes. Next. This is one of the 2 20-foot trailers that was brought up, and I can only imagine people passing it on the highway thinking, what is that? What is that? And in there, pre-positioned, is one of 2 waterfalls. Another 20-foot trailer is also well hidden, and it has a waterfall that leads into a stream. Next. As Laura mentioned, getting the upper track in place is hard work. It also requires teamwork. And I have to say that the young staff of Applied Imagination is some of the hardest working young people I have ever met. And as you see, you got to hold it up and then support it, and there'll be more in a moment. Next. This is the same sort of entranceway shot. You can see more of the upper track being in position. They put the upper track in first, and then we went on for the lower. And once again, a view that there's nothing really planted or living, just the tea roses. Next. Did I mention plants to be planted? This is one picture. For anyone who's been to Franklin Park, there are the 3 stainless steel sails, and there are walkways off that. No matter where you looked, row after plants. And eventually they got into the display. Next. You can see how the upper track was temporarily supported. And as this progresses, and if you've been there, you will probably agree with me that Applied Imagination has an incredible ability for making things disappear. The public really has no idea of what they don't see. Next, please. This video again will show you about 1/4 of what need to be planted. Everything in your field of vision now was planted. Truly an amazing amount of material. And when it was finally put in and had a few weeks to mature and grow, the display was amazing. We now jump a couple days into the future, and regrettably, I have no slides from the 17th and 18th of June. The reason for that is I was sequestered in the main building with one of the people from Franklin Park, and it was my chore, my pleasure actually, to catalog all of the Wolf collection. I went through in 2 days, many cars, many engines of all types, and we sort of put things together in appropriate trains to be used later in the display. The staff of Franklin Park is truly exceptional. Regrettably, I was not able to take pictures during the cataloging event. So we now come to the next slide. This is what I was earlier saying. Anybody see dirt? Anybody see flowers? This area is fairyland, and you know that early scene that you saw at the beginning before I took over was the same place. Next, please. This is a glimpse of who lives here, and even before we were finished, Franklin Park was already installing some of their plants. This is the area called European Travels. There are 3 railroads loops in this particular area. Once again, not a plant in sight, and yet within a few weeks, it looked like it had been here for years. One of the comments I get from many people is, how many years has this been here? And I say it was created in June. This is the last slide before we open to the public. And once again, you have a perfect view of the structures that had been created. but no plants. Next, please. This is the European area, the waterfall, the lighthouse, the stream. Next, please. What Franklin Park staff has done so well is putting the proper trains together. They understand clearly what are the American trains in the collection. They understand what are European trains, and they understand what Thomas are, and they do not mix them up. They have truly done an exemplary job in creating the trains for each quadrant of the display. My hat is off to them for doing a great job. Next, please. If you think the display looks good in the daytime, watching it go from daytime to nighttime is truly enjoyable. And as these houses come to light, as LED lights along the railroad come to light, and just add LED lights on some of the houses, just like the houses in your neighborhood, it goes from amazing during the daytime to amazing to the 10th power at night. I encourage you, if you can get out there, if you live in Franklin County, in the evening between 5 and 7, as we go from daytime to nighttime, you will walk out just shaking your head like, oh my, that was so amazing. Next, please.
Ron, if I could cut in here, if you could do another quick reboot here, you're breaking up a little bit. And this will give me an opportunity to remind everybody to pre-purchase your tickets. I have stood in line, my wife and I have bought tickets and we're standing in line, and the folks in front of us didn't reserve tickets and it's already been sold out. And unfortunately, they might get turned away. So it's very important to buy your tickets ahead of time. So Ron, welcome back. You're getting faster. All right, please continue.
Yes, next slide, please. This is one of my favorite houses. Regrettably, the picture that I took doesn't really show the detail that is inside, but to look at it and to realize the creativity of the people at Applied Imagination, I can't say enough. I'll be repeating myself and I don't want to do that. Next, please. Another freight train. You can see the different bridges. There's, I think, 3 to 4 bridges in this one picture alone. And some people even walk under the bridges and they don't even realize they're walking underneath. Next, please. This gives you an idea of some of the beauty in the Fairyland area back in the late summer when the flowers had just taken over. And standing there, especially during Pumpkins Aglow, when the flowers were still looking beautiful and the pumpkins were all over the place, people just couldn't believe this was, quote, just a few months ago. I keep saying that, but it was truly stunning. The colors were amazing. Even now, as we go into winter, the color still is appropriate for the season. Next, please. Little trains, little engines, little cars. They have big trains with big cars and little trains with little cars. They really mix it up and people come back quite a bit. And they love coming back to see the different types of trains that are running. Next, please. Did I mention the importance of those pegs and the wires? The train car that you're looking at, most people will not recognize. That particular car was the 1998 LGB convention car, of which I own 2, and I gave 1 to Franklin Park happily. That car, first time out of the box in 22 years, it waited for its moment. And like on the second time around the upper loop, a gust of wind almost brought it to the ground. I am so happy those safety wires are there. That car will go another day. Next, please. As we moved into the fall, we needed pumpkin trains for Halloween. And so I stole an idea from a 5-year-old. I'll just leave it at that. 5-year-old gets the credit, but the pumpkin train, I just thought, gee, that would be neat. And inside each of those pumpkins was an LED light. So at night, our jack-o'-lanterns were fully lit. Next, please. Next.
Fortunately, video was playing back earlier today, but we're strikes again. Sorry.
Skip. And now, moving from one holiday to another, we had to update the cars, and shopping around and finding things is a lot of fun. I have to give credit where credit is due. My wife, Susan, found this car and the next one. And next, please.
Oh, shoot. This one's not playing either. Sorry, folks. This is what we get with a live show. This was working earlier today. First time glitches, I guess. Sorry, Ron.
No problem. They'll have to come out to Franklin Park and see it. What else can I say?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you need to get out there.
One more slide. Maybe this will work.
No, this one's not working either. Boy, I sure hope the next set work okay for us, because those are going to be some good ones. The bonus material.
Well, I think there's one more slide. And this is the last car that I was able to put together. 2 polar bears. And yes, those are the tiniest little LED lights I have ever seen. If anyone out there who is listening can only find the appropriate size Coca-Cola bottle, can you imagine if we could give each one of those bears the little 1/2-inch bottle of Coke? Boy, would that be awesome. Hope it doesn't infringe on any copyright. But anyway, that kind of wraps up my part of Franklin Park. At this time, I would like to switch over, give it back to Jed, who will switch it to Alison Davis, who will talk about a phenomenal opportunity to volunteer.
Yeah, so Alison, come on in from the green room here.
Hello.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I am doing well, especially after hearing this wonderful presentation from you and Laura and Ron. I am very happy to be here today representing the conservatory, and just want to extend my thanks to all of them and all of you for their help and your interest in the Garden Railway, not only at Franklin Park Conservatory, but just in general. It's been a learning experience for me the last couple of months to see all of this come together. And I lucked out because on those warm June days, I got to sit in my air-conditioned office and just listen to the chatter on the radio as all of this was going in. So, you know, my job, one of the perks of my job is that I just got to hear about it and go out and see it come together. But it has been amazing, and we're just so grateful for all of the help. Ron mentioned, you know, volunteering. We would love to have anybody that's interested come out and volunteer. I am the volunteer coordinator, so that's kind of my role in all of this, is not to put this together, because nobody wants me to do that, because I don't have the knowledge or the skill, but just to encourage folks who are interested in helping the conservatory and helping expose applied imagination and garden railways in general to the public. I'll say the conservatory has seen so many guests just absolutely enthralled with this exhibit. And we were closed from March to June, like most things in the state of Ohio were. And so we are just so excited that we were able to get this exhibit off the ground and offer it in a safe outdoor environment for folks. You know, masks are required, social distancing is required, and families have said to us how safe they feel coming to the conservatory, and as have our volunteers. This is a great opportunity to be outside, sharing your love of the Garden Railway, but also being able to stay safe in this time. So anybody that's interested, volunteer opportunities are available daily. We are open 363 days a year in a non-COVID year. So we're only closed on Thanksgiving Day and Christmas Day. So we have lots of opportunities every day from now until January 10th, when Garden Railway will be closing, to come out and serve as a volunteer. Our Garden Railway shifts are about 2 hours long. You just kind of walk around those 10,000 square feet and introduce, yourself to guests if they have questions. We give you all the information you need about applied imagination, about the conservatory, about the railway, and you can just interact with guests. Mainly, you are there to monitor the trains in case we have any of those derailments, like Ron showed a little bit ago. It doesn't happen. Yeah, it doesn't happen often. Honest. The most common thing is that a train will just stop, and then your job will be to radio our staff to come out and help you with that. It's not a difficult job, but it is one that is necessary for us to keep the Garden Railway open. And we want to make sure it is there because families, guests, they come back day after day just to see what new trains are out there. Ron has been great about helping us, make those switches happen, because we do have these nice holiday trains. But we do have different engines.
Every time I've gone, it's a new train that's on the rails. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's so much fun to see. And for our volunteers who come back, we have, Ron and Deb from the Railway Society are already been doing lots and lots of shifts out there. And we have some of our, regular conservatory volunteers who've been volunteering with us for many years, who just absolutely are enthralled with this as well, and have never thought that they'd be interested in the Garden Railway. And they're learning and really enjoying this exhibit. It has something for everyone. Volunteering is just a fun way to get out there and see it, experience it, and like I said, share that joy with other people. It's pretty simple to become a conservatory volunteer. I think so, at least. The best way.
Yeah, I've got the website pulled up here on the side screen, and you just click on the website, click on the Get Involved volunteering.
Yep, you can do that. And actually, for Railway Society members, I'm trying to kind of keep you guys together. So if you want, you can just click on the email and email me if you don't want to even go to the application. And just let me know that you're a Garden Railway member, and I will and I've really tried to avoid using railroad puns for the last several months, but they just keep kind of going into my conversations. So I will fast track you as a Railway Society volunteer, so we can hopefully get you in and get some shifts served before the railway closes in January. Like I said, we have 4 shifts daily out at the railway. And then, even after the railway closes, we still need volunteers all year round. We have horticulture opportunities. Jed and Ron and I were talking the other day about, the railroad side of it is only just a minor part of what you all do. So we do have that horticulture aspect that we can always use help with, both inside the conservatory and outside on our grounds. So when you apply to become a conservatory volunteer, all of those opportunities become open to you as well. We don't require a minimum number of hours to volunteer. We do require a background check, but that is covered by us in terms of cost. And it's not a fingerprint check. It's just, a social security number and some personal information that we have to get. But you don't have to go for fingerprints or anything, and it doesn't cost you anything. And all of our shifts are self-scheduled. So we'll never ask you to serve a shift at a time that you have to adjust things. You go on to a website and sign up for the shifts that you're interested in. So we try to make it as easy, as fun, and especially right now, as safe as possible for everybody who's volunteering. So I just encourage anyone who's interested in getting involved, giving back, but also just being able to experience this really, really fun exhibit, to reach out. Like I said, you can go on the website. There's the volunteers@fpconservatory.org email, or you can email me directly at adavis@fpconservatory.org, and we'll be happy to have you.
Fantastic. I know there's a link to the website down in the show notes if people want to check that out later on their own. I know for me personally, I enjoy the gardening in my garden railroad is probably about 80% of the real work. And I'm sure at Franklin Park, there's endless weeding and things. And I find weeding very therapeutic. And I'm sure if you need a lot of therapy, you can go to Franklin Park and weed. Those outdoor gardens are always amazing looking, and that doesn't come without hard work. So thank you for joining us. Can you stick around to the end if we get some questions in our question and answer?
Sure thing,
period?
happy to.
Great. Well, Ron has a bonus presentation here of his trip to Germany recently. And so I'm going to put you back into our virtual green room.
Okay.
Enjoy some more of those cookies. And
Will do, thanks.
we're going to bring Ron back out here. 1 second. Welcome back, Ron. How are you?
I'm still here, hopefully clear.
Good. Yes, nice and clear. And I hope you left a few cookies behind for me in the virtual green room.
No.
No. Oh, really? All right. So, how do you want to break into your trip?
Okay. It wasn't as recent as I'd like it to have been. It was back in May of 2019. And I've always waited for the right time to share it. This was one day on a longer trip. It was our first day having flown across the ocean. And needless to say, when I got in front of the sign for Miniature Wonderland, I had to take the picture. I'm not much for selfies, but to me, being a train guy since I was, 5 years old or younger, this was arriving. For people unfamiliar with model railroading, if I say Lionel to most people, they have an image of that. G scale is bigger than Lionel. HO is half the size of Lionel. And Miniature Wonderland is HO scale. Some fun facts before we get into the slides. There are 9 display areas. Approximately 1,000 engines in the collection, 10,000 passenger cars and freight cars. 50 computers run the railroads. Miniature people, 240,000. And the numbers are always changing. Trees, 180,000. What does it take to make all this work? 350 employees. The year we were there, they expected 1.5 million visitors. I will say at times around certain displays, the crowd was rather deep, 3, 4, 5 people deep, and I knew they probably weren't happy. A few months after we were home, I got an email saying we are doubling the size of what we have, and we acquired another building across the canal from where we are. I'll tell you now that if we're ever lucky enough to go back to Europe, Northern Europe, we'll be stopping at Miniature Wonderland. Next slide, please. Yeah. What strikes you when you literally get into the first area is the detail, the beauty. It just overwhelms you. I mean, because nothing is missing. And as I sort of stammer and stutter, it's recalling how I felt when I saw it, because it's like nothing I'd ever seen before, and I would venture most people have never seen. Next, please. If you can see right to the right side of the trees, there's a gap in the pine trees, and you go across the street and you see what looks like a phone booth. And if you can see it on the particular screen that you have, there's a traffic light there, and it's green, and it switches green to red. And the trucks that you see on the road, they move. They actually move like trucks on a road. Most train displays people have, if they have a vehicle, it sits there. No, there's over 250 vehicles in this train display, and they all move around. And so as that truck came down the hill, it got a red light and it had to stop. Next, please. One of the several, the word just left my mind. Train station. Duh, hello me. Again, people waiting, trains coming, trains going. You don't know where to look first. And this was just one of several that we saw. Next, please. The creativity, understatement. This was a wedding reception scene. Very nice, very detailed, very authentic. Next, please. This is the showstopper. This is what people come to see. It is the airport display. 6 years of engineering to create. Had I known more before I even got there, if I could have gotten lower down, I could have looked in the airport terminals, and they're just like any terminals you would go to. Everything inside is authentic and real. You're looking over the terminal out into the ramp. You can see some people. The only thing that separates you from the displays is this railing. There's no plexiglass. You can touch anything. People have so much respect. They don't touch. But the detail, I had more pictures. I could talk for hours, and I have just about 6 more minutes to go. Next, please. Nighttime at the airport. I have played games with cropping these pictures and showing it to people who are pilots. What airport is this? I don't know. Not sure. Somewhere in the United States. And then I change it where they see the people standing around. It's like, what are you showing me? And I explain this is a airport on a model railroad in Hamburg, Germany. Next slide. Hopefully it will run. This is the daytime view, excuse me. At daytime and nighttime, it changes every 15 minutes. Each one of those airplanes is about 30, 36 inches from nose to tail. They are the most beautiful models I have ever seen. And they constantly move. That airplane will be pushed back from the gate by a tug. It will turn it around. The plane will taxi out to the runway. It will take off and disappear in the clouds. And a little bit later, another airplane. There's, I think, 40 different airplanes in the fleet, comes out of the clouds, lands on the runway, taxis to the gate. The only thing I can say is I can explain it. I can describe it. You're only going to see what I saw and what my camera saw. But to be there, the best analogy I can give you is, and Jed, you can go to the next slide. If you watch a football game on TV, that's kind of nice. And if you're at the stadium, it's a whole different experience. Regrettably, why these aren't working, we have the same problem. We're not sure why.
Yeah, I apologize. These were working great this morning, and we're just before we tuned in here, it's acting up on us. But isn't that technology?
Let me describe. You can see the taxiway where the triangle is. The planes taxi out along. They wait if a plane is landing. That airplane then starts rolling down the runway, lifts off, and disappears into the clouds. And then
there's a lot of YouTube videos out there of people that have taken this. If you search this place, you'll see this video of these planes. It's truly amazing.
If you look at the banner going across the bottom, as it happens, the website is miniature, the way it's spelled, it's European spelling, -wonderland.com. And you will be into their website, and that will do a lot more than what I can share with you in the next couple of minutes. Next, please. Las Vegas, Nevada. Next, please.
Wow. Darn. Again, foiled.
Yeah, we're so sorry. This all worked, in practice, but this train that was coming by, it was almost a 28-second segment because there's so many train cars in that one train. To the left, you can see what looks like the far left, a little blue screen. That's an outdoor theater where people can go watch movies. Next, please. It's a bridge. It's the model of a real bridge in the Hamburg harbor. And they asked for different people who can build this for us. Several people came forward and said they'd be happy to do it in plastic. And a man came and said, it's a steel bridge. I will build it true to scale, but I must build it out of true metal. And I think there's a video at Miniature Wonderland that takes you through it. It is mind-blowing. That structure is metal. Next, please. Another passenger terminal, bigger than the first one you saw. And just, you could just stand in front of one scene for 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. We were actually there 4 hours. And Susan plus this other couple that was with us, I was the first one who said, I had enough. They didn't want to leave. So hear me, my brain was just exploding because of what it had seen and how I felt. It's incredible. Sorry if I'm repeating. Next, please. At the opposite end of the floor is a 15,000 liter bathtub. And yes, there are 6 different ships in it. Passenger, freight. I'm not so sure if this was a freight/ferry type of ship. And it was moving. We could see it was moving, except there was no wake coming off the ship. Absolutely none. So I thought, okay, is this real water? And yes, I dipped my finger in it. I wasn't thrown out. It's real water. And the ships come and go, dock, turn around, go back out to sea. Another ship comes in. I don't know what else I can tell you. You've got to get there. Next slide, please. I don't think this one needs any explanation. Next, please. The soccer stadium. Not exactly sure how big it is. You had a video display at each end and a little sign somewhere near it says 20,000 people watching soccer. I didn't count them, but I'll take their word that some staff put 20,000 little people inside that stadium. Next, please. And yes, they go back in time. Many years ago, Susan and I were lucky enough to get to Rome and to get inside and see the Colosseum. And I've got to tell you, this picture, it's the last slide, the most incredible model I have ever seen. Because just a few seconds of backstory, Miniature Wonderland sent a staff of 40 people to Italy to capture the essence of Italy. And they came back, and there is one display area that literally is the city of Rome, the countryside. All I'm going to do as I wrap up this, say, go to their website and prepare to be amazed. I am so fortunate that I get to see Applied Imagination work in G scale, and what they do is joyous and sometimes just unbelievable. And yet to have been to a Miniature Wonderland in Hamburg, I'm a blessed human being. I can't tell you how, I don't know, speechless. So I'm going to stop talking, which is difficult for me at times. I'll turn it back to Jed, and if there are any Q&As, I think we'll try and answer a few.
Yeah, I'm going to call Laura and Alison back from the green room here, and I hope you have enjoyed your steak dinners that I provided for you in the virtual green room. The steak was good and the wine was extra fine. Yes,
well,
great.
Jed is vegetarian, so.
Oh, wow.
I that's fine.
So I had to save it for everyone else.
That's right. Well, Ron, looks like you got extra steaks waiting for you.
Goodbye.
Well, I've been seeing a few questions pop up here and there. A couple of people, is it, how can I get that job? Laura, are you hiring in the Kentucky area these days? What's the process to get a job with Applied Imagination? I'm sure more than one people in this would like to know.
Yeah, we are unfortunately not currently hiring, but we oftentimes do need extra help for installations. So if you like traveling and you like helping set up garden railways, oftentimes we do need extra hands on the big displays. New York's probably the biggest one, and we have about 10 to 15 extra sets of hands that go with us on that installation. So some of those are New York locals that we've brought on for years after, knowing them and them loving to be a part of that installation, which will have its 30th anniversary next year. So that's a very special display that often needs extra help. So if you like traveling, get in touch with me, and there may be opportunities there. Most of the people that we employ full time are on the architectural modeling side of things. So oftentimes they're coming to us with backgrounds in sculpture. We're led by a creative director who I brought on that was actually a part of Applied Imagination back in the 90s and early 2000s, back when I was first working with Applied Imagination building models. She was one of the artists there. She went off, got a master's in architecture, and worked in the field of experiential design for a great long time while I was off being a brand leader in advertising, and she was off, doing things in experiential design and architecture. And then I somehow managed to convince her to come back under the Applied Imagination fold with me to lead our team of artists. So that's kind of the background that it takes for the model building. But like I said, we're always kind of needing extra hands on these installs. So certainly something I would be open to hearing from people. It is
Great.
Hard work.
I bet it is probably a lot of lifting of bridges and probably a lot of hard work. And it's always probably the hottest day of the year too.
Well, yeah, we tried to not make a habit out of installing in summer. Franklin Park was meant to be a spring installation, which would have been a beautiful time to be up there doing what we do. But when a pandemic hits, there are all plans go out the door and you make it work. So I'm glad to say that we did, and it turned out beautifully, and everyone survived thanks to a whole lot of water.
Yeah. We have a question here from Andrew. And how long is this display going to be open to see? Alison, do you want to answer?
Yeah, let's let Alison do that.
It will be open until January 10th, 2021. So you've still got about 6 weeks to get out and see it. And like I said, we're open every day except Christmas Day, and every evening from now until then except Christmas Eve. We'll close at 5 on Christmas Eve. Great.
And
quickly, just another thing to kind of mention for the holidays. So Franklin Park is known for Conservatory Aglow. It's an incredible exhibit. You can see all different kinds of holiday lights visiting their conservatory and the grounds of their botanical gardens. But we actually went up and added a layer of holiday lighting to our display as well. So the tracks are lit. We made probably one of our more ambitious projects that we've ever taken on, this big 10-foot arch that is inspired by the lighted holiday archways that you see in European cities. So there's a big, beautiful, lighted, colorful botanical archway that you can take photographs under. And Wild West Town is lit up with a bunch of fun different lights, and in each kind of quadrant of the display has kind of its own unique theme. So it's gotten even more fun for holidays. We even did little teeny miniature colored lights on all of the European buildings so that it looks just like it does in places like Hamburg.
Perfect. We have a question from Deb Sweet. Any new layouts for the future and where, and how many around the country, and always looking for future vacations? So what future plans do you have, and where can we book our plane tickets for?
Yeah, well, I don't think I'm allowed necessarily to talk about the ones that are kind of in the works yet. But for all of our existing installations, you can go to our website, which is appliedimagination.co or .biz, or AILTD.co is another easy way to get there, or just type us into Google, we'll come right up. But on our homepage, there is an exhibition schedule that you can link down to that will give you information on all the various displays. A couple fun ones that we have coming up. Actually, the installation or model collection that I talked about that Franklin Park exhibited, the Wonders of the World, that has gotten a whole new addition to it. And all of those will be up at Morris Arboretum in Philadelphia come this spring. And one of the exhibits that I'm really excited about next year, in addition to kind of, all the amazing traditional ones that we do, is a continued exhibit down at the Biltmore Estate in Asheville, North Carolina. That has the most difficult, ambitious model we have ever created as a company on display. It is an 11-foot model of the Biltmore Mansion itself. It took over 2,000, I think closer to 3,000 hours to construct. So it is an incredible work of art. It is full-sided. And that, in addition to a bunch of other beautiful models that we made to celebrate the Biltmore, will all be on display with a Garden Railway exhibit in their conservatory. So that's kind of another fun one. And if you can ever make it up to New York, the New York Botanical Gardens is our longest running, our largest, and it is a miniature New York City filled with over 200 different models that we've been creating since the early 90s that transform you into a miniature New York City. So that's a super special one that's known as one of the top things to do in New York at Christmas. Hundreds of thousands of people, at least on a normal year, get to go through and see that one, and it's quite an experience. It takes up 3 different houses in their conservatory, plus there's a big tent, and that's a special one. And then hopefully we'll be continuing on in some iteration, some form with Franklin Park also in the future. So you can continue to see fun things in Columbus. So stay tuned. A
permanent display in Columbus would be fantastic.
Well, I think so.
And applied, Deb Sweet has also asked here, are most of the Applied Imagination displays temporary or permanent?
Yeah, so it's a mix. So it kind of just depends on what our clients are looking for. So a lot of them are either spring, summer based, and then holiday based, of course, as we all know, that these wonderful G-scale trains just go so well with the holidays. But then we also have, like at Cheekwood in Nashville, we have a permanent one that stays up all year. And it gets, by their volunteers, kind of changed out for the holidays. And we're talking to them right now about maybe building on and making that one even more elaborate, and bringing, some different model collections to them. So it's a mix of permanent and temporary. And temporary often turns into a yearly tradition. We've got these displays like New York, and another one I forgot to mention that's not too far from you guys is the Crone Conservatory in Cincinnati, Ohio. That one has a tradition just like New York, that we've been working with them since the early 90s as Applied Imagination, and Paul even had iterations of those displays that happened before Applied Imagination formed as a company. So that it's a little smaller and a little different this year just because of COVID times, but it's still beautiful and represents a wonderful little miniature version of Cincinnati.
Yeah. So, yeah, Andrew is thanking everybody for coming in, and it looks like he's enjoyed the show. Andrew, thanks for watching. Andrew has a show on large-scale trains that he does live. I think it's about once a month, and he has shown interest in large-scale stuff and collaborating with us. And he's a member of our club. He's up in the Akron area. But so we've had a real nice show here, and boy, I thank you, Alison and Laura and Ron, for all your work that you've put in into this show. And I have a few ideas for future live shows, and I've been talking to a few people about doing that. May not always be as formal as a program as this. But I appreciate all of our viewers. It looks like we got up to about 50 viewers at one point, I think. So that's fantastic. That's all I'm looking for at this point. I don't need millions of people watching our videos. But is there, Ron, do you have any final parting words for us? Anything you would like to share?
I think I'd wrap up and say, if you want to do something wonderful to help yourself in Franklin Park, buy a membership. Buy a membership where you can take 2 of your friends and then drag them down and let them enjoy the display and other parts of Franklin Park. Then maybe they will join. And then maybe we can get some more volunteers, which I'm sure Alison would like. So I've been hooked on Franklin Park, since May or June when we started putting this up. And even when the display is done, I'm in love with Franklin Park. It's a gem in our city that is, like, pardon me, a well-kept secret. Not sure why, but I'm going to get the word out. That's it for me. Thank you so much, Jed.
Yeah, thanks, Ron, for all your work this week. And Alison and Laura, I can't thank you enough for joining us and sticking around the entire show. And this has been fantastic. I hope our members have enjoyed our little show. I'm going to wrap up by saying goodbye to everyone. And I'm going to play the YouTube video I put out earlier in the year, and it was playing earlier in the show too, just to kind of wrap it up so people can watch what I filmed earlier this year of the whole train display and enjoy that. So, all right. Well, with that, I'll say goodbye, everyone. And thanks for watching.
You.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Final word I will add here as well. Our this group is a very social group, and if you could pick up the phone and call a friend in the club. We don't get to talk with everybody very often, and right now, since we're not meeting, pick up the phone, call a friend in the club, and see how they're doing. I'm sure they would enjoy talking with you. And that's all I've got for right now, folks. And I hope you've enjoyed today's show. We'll see you when we see you.